Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Roast.
And I am Jessica Bun Bun.
This is our Silo Season 2, Episode 5, Reaction and Review. What is in this Salvador Quinn letter? I mean, good news, everybody. He traveled through time, gave us access to it. We are somehow actively decoding it and also recording this at the same exact time.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to get into this letter and try to decode it ourselves. We have not read the book, so no spoilers for us, but we are going to really see what this is all about. I mean, this letter was decoded by Mary Meadows, and it was enough to make her stop being Bernard's shadow, enough for her to just become a shell of herself, to be drinking all the time and trying to escape what she learned in this letter. I mean, whatever's in there's got to be pretty bleak.
It kind of feels right now that a subtitle for this show could be Ignorance is Bliss, because if finding out the truth makes you that miserable, I'm not sure I want to know it. But, you know, it's still a really interesting subject to get into with this show, and it's probably going to be something that changes every single thing about it.
Absolutely. But before we get too deep in, make sure to join our Patreon. We'll have a link for you below. We're covering Dune Prophecy over there exclusively. It is the only place that you are able to get our video reviews. And if you're enjoying Silo, I feel like you're probably going to enjoy Dune as well. It's been a lot of fun to cover, and it really helps us here at the channel. So thank you so much to everyone who has joined.
Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate that. And just go ahead and put the tinfoil hats on. Like, I'm just going to say that right now, because here's where I am when it comes to decoding this letter. It feels a lot like if it's something that is written in code, it's obviously hugely important and it's potentially game changing. And since it's seemingly, we're going back here well over 100 years, we could also be getting some answers about the origins of these silos themselves. What happened to get them in this situation? What do they not want people to know about the outside world? Because connect this to everything else, whether it be travel brochures, books, other things that are specifically being taken from everybody within these silos. A lot of it is really down to, we don't want you guys to know how good the outside world once was, because then that's going to make you even more sad that you are here. And if we somehow did something to make the outside world really bad, we don't want you to know that either, because that's also really not going to be great for you.
Yeah, it feels like because Salvador wrote this letter 140 years ago, seemingly when everything started, the very beginning of the silos. He wrote it to his wife. That sounds like it started as a love letter, but ended in code. That it's, for me, my tinfoil hat is that he let her know that the silos, kind of like what you said, that maybe they were responsible for what happened to the outside world, and that these silos have been created to kind of help people as the only option. That it's like, okay, we're all put into these silos. They are monitoring us. They are controlling us. But the worst news is that you can't go outside. So it's like bleak or bleaker, like you are stuck here. So while you may not like what's going on in here, and you may not like that, they're watching you, or they're experimenting with you, or they're controlling you. There is no other option. The outside option is grim. You can't go out there, you'll die. So grimmer, grimmer. And I think that's really where it is, that it was just when, Judge Meadows read this letter and was like, okay, cool. So we're stuck in here. You guys are watching us. You guys are doing these things to us, but there is no other option. It's just like, okay, well then I give up.
Yeah, you're kind of stuck. And I'm hearing in my invisible earpiece, I actually have the first few lines of the letter decoded. So I'm going to read those to everybody now.
Okay, all right.
Roses are red, violets are blue. I have a big secret I need to tell you. That is how it all began. And then from there, it gets into the rest of the actual secret. No, seriously, though, I feel like this letter is something that multiple silos out there probably have at least a certain extent of knowledge about. It's hard for me to buy that only this one silo has something, because, I mean, it will also bring us into everything with Solo later on, too, that everybody's seemingly protecting something in the vault. And this letter could be a big part of what is being protected. And now in Silo 17, we've got Silo 18, sorry, everything that's going on with this letter now. Bernard's finding out about it. He's in communication with my guy Lucas, which is not really boding well for my guy Lucas along the way.
I'm just wondering how much any of the people in IT actually know about the origins of it. They've got their, sort of Bible of what happened and what to do and their order and all that. But the fact that Meadows didn't know about this, it seems like Bernard doesn't know what's going on, and it does seem like it could be outlining sort of how this all started. Like, I think Bernard knows a lot, but I don't think he knows everything. And I think that the people in IT know a lot, but they don't know everything. And they may not know how this all started, how they ended up in the silos. They may know that, we are watching people and that is happening, but maybe it's all this information's going to that city that we saw off in the distance, and they're doing something with all that information, and they may not know everything that's happening, and that it's a lot bleaker than they really know. Like, Bernard lives for the silo, but I don't think he knows everything that's going on to actually really be down for the silo.
Well, I've got a few more thoughts on that, but before we go further into that, hit that subscribe button, because we are going to be here through the rest of Silo Season 2, talking all about this. We are also still in the midst of the Apple Palooza with Before and also Bad Sisters currently airing, and Severance is coming up very, very soon. There's so much to be excited about there.
Absolutely.
Now, I do want to get to, though, this idea of how much do all these people know? Something that you were talking about, because ironically, I'm going to quote another Apple TV Plus show here in Ted Lasso, where at the end of season 1, they talk about it's the hope that kills you. And that's a lot of, I think, what goes on within there. If you are Bernard, if you are Solo, a Shadow, any other sort of higher up IT figure, like, you need to have some information in order to function. Like, you have to know how these silos work, the idea that there's more of them. But if you were to tell all these people in power every single thing, and if it is so unbelievably bleak, it's just going to be the situation where I don't know what they're going to do. And the hope of getting to the outside world may be something that kills them if they keep aspiring to it or trying to get out. But the idea that there's no hope, like, in that sense, this is even worse.
Yeah, and trying to keep this secret that Salvador had, I mean, it seems like he tried to tell his wife in code. We don't know if his wife decoded it. We don't know if she told anybody else. We know that there is this sort of like memory loss drug that everybody gets. This feels like information that has probably just been lost throughout time or wiped out of people's memories. So the fact that this letter is anywhere, this information died with Judge Meadows, but if your guy Lucas can really get this together and decode it, and Bernard finds out the truth, this could be a really interesting plot point for him, because he is down for the silo. Anything that has to happen for the silo, he is willing to kill for it, do anything he needs to do. If the information in this letter explains to him something that he's really not down for, that it is like, oh, I'm helping out the people that did destroy the outside world, that has made it that we are stuck in here and we have no other choices, and they're doing these other things to us as well, maybe we could actually see something change with Bernard.
That would be nice. Like, I know Bernard is a terrible villain who's done awful, unspeakable things, but I do wonder, Tim Robbins, if I was inside Tim Robbins' brain, how do I play this character? Do I play this character as somebody who, if the situation calls for it, kind of like what you're explaining here, and if his motivation really is for the good of the silo, if it is for the good of the silo to try to get some answers and try to find a way to stop something on the outside world, like, do I do it? It's like a really fascinating philosophical question with, can a guy like that change, or is that even changing if you're him?
Yeah, and I mean, he's still not there. Like, he's at a point that he's like, okay, I need to know what Mary was talking about before I killed her. About this letter. He's curious enough to bring up Lucas from the mines where he has said, I don't actually need you. I could have gotten anybody else to do this, but I'm going to get you to do this because I think you're more motivated. And I think that you will give me some answers. The fact that he's even looking into answers tells me that there is a little bit of a crack in there, that Bernard could possibly move in a different direction if he gets answers that he's not okay with.
Since you already brought this up, I have to just also put on a hard hat here because Silo is going to make me sad pretty soon because Bernard is going to kill Lucas, because if he doesn't really need Lucas and Lucas gets the information that Bernard wants, why in the world is Bernard then going to allow somebody like Lucas to just wander around with this information in his head?
Okay, here's my tinfoil hat. Lucas is not going to die.
Oh, tell me more.
Okay, so I thought that Lucas was just going to be done this season. There isn't anything that he is bringing to the table that makes sense for the show to keep him alive. After Judge Meadows confirmed to him everything about the stars and the world and that he's on the right path of things, I'm like, well, how would he live after that? Why would they ever let this character live? Okay, they're just going to put him back down to the mines to die. Then Bernard brings him back up. I'm like, okay, so they just don't want this character to die. He is going to have a bigger role here. Even Bernard was like, I don't really need you. I have 20 guys that can do this. You're not actually needed. I was like, yes, he's not actually needed. So why is he here? I think that he is going to end up being put in the impossible situation at the end of this, where he now has so much information that he's going to be given a choice. You can go back to the mines and die, or you can be Bernard's shadow. And you have all this information. It's incredibly powerful. It will give you a chance to live, and you have to keep it a secret because now you are the IT shadow. And I think that he will take that deal because he doesn't want to die.
Okay, now we're cooking. I'm going to scheme a little bit here.
Okay.
Because we all know eventually, well, I guess we don't all know, but we're all assuming that eventually Juliet is going to make it back to Silo 18 because the idea of her sitting around and having Solo scream at her for the rest of the show just isn't that fun. So I'm assuming that at some point this is going to happen. Now, if there's a couple of things that we know about Lucas as a character, it's that one, he's pretty smart, and two, he is down bad for Juliet. So if Juliet comes back to this Silo at some point, Lucas doesn't want to die, but Lucas also really likes Juliet, and I feel like he's not going to keep very many secrets from Juliet if she comes back, and I think that could be Bernard's gravest mistake, is to underestimate the power of this one-sided love that exists between Lucas and Juliet, and that would be very compelling television.
Absolutely. I think Bernard is he's really banking on her not coming back. We've heard this said already. There just wasn't going to be enough air in that suit for her to either really survive or get back. And that is the truth. She's over in this dead silo trying to put together a suit so that she can get back again, because she didn't have enough air to be able to go there and come back. She was running out. So how does she get back? Bernard is probably banking on the fact that she cannot.
Well, there's one more thing I will mention briefly here about Silo 18 before we move fully into the Juliet Solo world. I just don't get that excited about the Knox and Shirley stuff. Like, I'm sorry. It just feels like every episode for the two of them now is basically just, we're going to watch them run around. We're going to see some sort of fight that's going on a stairwell. And it just feels like it's a few episodes at this point. So I'm kind of getting a little bit numb to it.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm also feeling that I'd like to see the stuff with Billings move forward a bit more. Like, it was good to see him find Patrick and what's going on. Patrick's like, all right, I'll tell you everything, after he's just like, give me your gun so that, I know I can trust you. He's like, I'm going to give you something better. I'm going to give you this piece of paper that shows the outside that is absolutely a huge trust thing. If I get caught with this, I'm done. I'm going to be sent out to clean. So you can trust me. Watching Billings and Patrick get together, I mean, like, this could be a really cool duo to see what's going on. Because watching him walk around with Hank has been getting kind of tired as well. I will say, though, that watching Rob get sidelined as Bernard's puppet to be like, yeah, you're definitely not going to be in IT. You're not going to be my shadow, but you are going to be the new judge, which is just a puppet to do whatever I want. Oh my God, Rob is not taking that very well at all.
Okay, I've come up with now how I actually want Bernard to die on this show. I want Rob to just throw him over the side at some point because, while
Rob is going through it.
Rob is going through it, and while, many other people have been wronged by Bernard over time,
yes,
it just feels like the amount of just like bad, unfortunate Charlie Brown getting the football thrown away from him that Bernard has done to Rob Sims at this point, like, I just feel for the man, and I also just feel like Common's gonna do this, and he's just gonna say some like awesome line at the end of it, and I'm just gonna be like, yeah.
I think it's gonna get even worse for Rob now that his wife Camille helped Knox and Shirley a little bit to escape, and I kind of get where she's going with it, where she's just like, Rob, you should be in this position still of you are the person in charge trying to find them and not the person that you trained. You don't want the person you trained. You want the person who trained them, the best of the best. And you're getting sidelined in this judge position so that Bernard can just control you. Cool. I'm going to make it that, your protege can't find them and that maybe Bernard will have to pull you in. But Bernard is just one step ahead the whole time. He knows what Camille has done. Yeah. All the information just keeps coming out. Like, how long can Camille end up not getting sent out to clean?
It doesn't feel like she's very long for this world at all. Like,
no.
To me, Billings is sort of the X factor with all of this, just because he's smart enough and social enough to kind of know to hide his cards in certain places. And, Sims can kind of do that, but I think Sims is just also a little bit too close to Bernard that it's harder for him to maneuver around.
Yeah.
All right, Juliet and Solo. Did you know that Solo is the shadow, that his name is Steve Zahn, like cranked it to 12 in that scene for a good solid minute. And I will say, if he was screaming at me like that, I would do whatever he wanted. I was terrified.
Yeah, it was pretty terrifying. I think, there's a lot of us out there that didn't think that Solo was necessarily who he said. Yeah. I mean, there was this whole questioning from Juliet before in the last episode as well. That was just like, these timelines, they're not adding up. How are you 11 years old and you're also a shadow? None of this is making any sense. I don't understand what's happening. Yeah. She's dug a little bit deeper while she was trying to find this helmet. She has stumbled across the real Solo, and it is not him.
Yeah.
And when she decided to confront him about it, it went so badly. And it was really terrifying. I was like, is this going to turn into him trying to kill her? I mean, we know that there were these two fresher bodies outside of the vault, that he's very likely the person who took them out. So why is he lying? Like, what is it at this point that he is lying about?
Okay, so there's two issues at play here. I think number one, Juliet, you made a mistake in confronting him about this. This is sort of like if you're playing the traitors and you know that somebody is a traitor, you don't go up to them and be like, you're a traitor. You try to find a way to make a move behind the scenes. She needed to find a way to sort of get more information and either escape or put him in a position where he couldn't fight back against it. Like you already know he's very emotionally stunted and all over the place, that there was no way this was going to work out well for you.
Yeah. And for Juliet, what does it matter? Yeah. Like, you're trying to get out of here and you're trying to get back to Silo 18. This is the only other person that's there. You have needed his help. Who cares who he is? Who cares if he's Solo or he's somebody else or he's a shadow, he's not a shadow, he's part of the circus?
Yeah.
Who cares? You are just trying to get out of there and you need his help. So just butter him up, do whatever you need to do to get him to help, to get you out of there. Nothing else really matters.
Yeah, and to get into the other thing you were talking a little bit about, and okay, well, who is this guy? Like, what is he really up to? I don't think it's that different necessarily from even what we've talked about in the past. Like, I envision this guy, whoever he really is, as just somebody who went through all this rebellion when he was a child. He probably grew up feeling a certain way about the silo, about everything, and he probably saw the real Solo either starting to wander a little bit away from the path or what their responsibility was, or he just saw him starting to do something that he thought was going to legitimately put them all in danger and he was too cowardly or whatever to take that risk. And he just took the guy out and was just like, okay, I care about the silo. I care about these rules and everything Russell had set up. I will just be the new Solo now because if somebody does show up, I look a lot more effective and I look a lot more convincing if I am a former Shadow as opposed to, oh, I'm just some guy who was in here since he was a kid. Then nobody is going to take me seriously.
It could be something as simple as childhood jealousy. I mean,
Yeah.
that picture of Solo, if that was the current form of him when everything was happening, they would have been about the same age.
Yeah.
And he was in this picture with this girl, and maybe there was some sort of jealousy that was there. And then when everything happened, he decided to just take on that persona when he was told to go into the vault, because that's what it feels like. It
Yeah.
feels like an adult was like, you need to go into the vault, just put yourself in there, don't come out until I come get you. And then nobody came to get him because everybody died.
Yeah, and I think all of this, the upbringing of Solo, the way in which he probably was before all this, like it influences heavily who he is because he's just sort of stuck in this really particular window and particular thought process. But that's what makes this situation now so unbelievably interesting because Juliet's life is clearly on the line at this point. And if you are Solo, what do you do after all of this? Because you just had this confrontation and you're probably wondering a lot of things. And I'm not going to sit here and say that Solo is a good guy or an angelic figure or anything like that. But I think he is really, really complicated. I don't think he necessarily wants to just be alone forever. So I do think he's probably going to save her somehow.
You know, he's definitely going to save her. They're not going to kill off Juliet. And I mean, like, I say that knowing that this show originated with, it's like, Rashida Jones is the star of this show. She is the first credit that comes up. And then, you know, she's gone right away. They just Drew Barrymore screened the situation here. Like, could they kill off Juliet? Maybe. I mean, we're a lot deeper in now, so I don't think they're gonna kill her off and now the new lead is Lucas or something else, as much as I know you love Lucas. But we all love Juliet, and that is the story that we are following. She is the hero of this. So while it would make the most sense that Solo would just let her die, and we do know that there are those bodies that were outside his vault, so he's likely done this already. I think because he's made such a good connection with her, the show doesn't want Juliet to die. Solo is going to find her and is going to help her, and it's going to help strengthen their bond, where Juliet might get to that point that she's just like, it just doesn't matter who he was.
Yeah, I think if she's going to be here for a reasonable amount of time, she just has to accept that and has to figure out, okay, I just need to realize this is who he is. What do I want to do from here? And there's a couple of different options. Like they're clearly setting up that, okay, Juliet's going to just find a way to go back outside. She's already been working on the suit and maybe find her own way back or whatever. But I still am hashtag Team Tunnel. I think the tunnels are going to be key to everything. We spent some time in the Bernard storyline hearing a little bit more about these tunnels that he didn't really seem to know all that much about in advance.
Yeah, it was interesting to actually hear that, because when the finale happened for season 1 and Juliet mentioned the tunnels to him, he had a look on his face that I just couldn't figure out. Was he surprised that she knew about them because he knew about them, or was he just surprised that they existed at all? The way that he portrayed that emotion, I was like, I don't know if he actually knows about them or not. I can't tell. And now it feels like he doesn't know about them.
The real problem Juliet's clearly going to run through with all of this is that there's so much of Silo 17 is underwater. And it seems like the water is there a lever? Like, you know, I play a lot of dungeon crawling video games, and there's always these dungeons where you go and you just push the lever and all the water drains out. Is there a way to do that?
I just had a level like that on Elden Ring, the DLC.
Exactly. I've done countless games that are just like that. Like, is there a way to drain down the water to get it? Because it just feels to me, yeah, it would be a compelling image if Juliet walks back up to the front of Silo 18, just like knocks on the door and everybody freaks out. But
yeah, no, I don't think that that's the way that it's going to go. I think that they had that conversation about the fact that the water is still rising.
Yeah.
And that Solo only has about 10 months or a year or so before it's going to reach him or the top of the silo, and he's not going to make it anyways. So it seems like the suit idea is probably not going to end up working out, and that they're going to have to go to plan B, which is drain the silo.
Okay, I'm just really excited to figure out how in the world you do that. Juliet's not going to just grab a bucket and do it that way. So
no,
we'll see exactly where that goes. But that is where we are now, coming out of Silo Season 2, Episode 5. Lots of fun stuff happening. Season may be a little bit of a mixed bag at times, but I really enjoyed some of the reveals that we had this time around. So hit that subscribe button so you do not miss any more Silo coverage. Support us further. Join our Patreon. That link is in the description below for exclusive Dune Prophecy videos. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you here next time.